All right, all right, all right. Here we go back again on the other side of the coin. Look, ladies and gentlemen out there, it's not the greatest time to, you know, do a review of this match. Obviously, it was a poor performance and we ended up losing. But nonetheless, we got to do what we got to do. We got to analyze. We got to talk about it and hopefully make some sense of it. And at the end of it, hopefully we're a little bit lighter off the back of that match. But before we get started, I want to thank my special guest, Tom. Tom, for being here. Thank you so much for being here, Tom. I know we've got an exam coming up, and I do appreciate your time, man. How you doing?
Anytime, mate. Honestly, I love coming on here, and I've just been so busy recently. I've not been on the socials as much as I'd like. So to get invited on here, even in those times, is an absolute privilege. It's great to be on with you, mate.
Brilliant, brilliant. Look, yeah, I have noticed recent times that you've been busy with work. You've just found a new job recently, so congratulations on that. But look, man, let's get straight into this. It's going to be a bit difficult, but let's try and pull through together. Before I get into the whole nitty-gritty of the match, just an overall sort of one-line summary from the top of your head. How'd you feel about that match?
Not great, but don't read too much into it. Exactly as Ben Hur's just put, actually. I think he's put it very nicely. Just an off day, no need to panic.
Nah, absolutely, man. I mean, look, for me personally, that was very unexpected. Off the back of how we've been playing recently, I just didn't see us be that lackluster. But I think what it kind of told me in that match was players like Ziyech, especially, and Pulisic, man, they are so crucial to our team. Ziyech specifically with his creativity. Oh, man, we lacked a lot of creativity today. Did you sort of feel that way as well, Tom?
I did. I think we were kind of without a spark, and it says a lot that actually I think Reece James was our only real threat from the wide areas.
Yeah.
I think it was exceptional, by the way. But I think he was the threat. And you had two forwards that were in the wide areas that were basically coming into the middle to create a kind of really narrow shape that, given that Everton had, a back four that was a four centre halves, in some ways, a narrow game really did suit them. And had we had Ziyech on, had we had a Pulisic for longer, Pulisic and obviously not out injured, I actually think that we'd have put a couple of goals past that team. They didn't have, they had weak fullbacks, and I think it would have suited us a lot more. I mean, I will say, we have a very bad record at Goodison Park. We only tend to win there when we win the league. Obviously, we won 3-0 under Conte, 6-3 under Mourinho. The time before that, I can't even remember. I think it might even have been the time we won under Ancelotti the league. So, given that we come off the back of a 17-game unbeaten run, I think it is. I don't think, to be honest with you, we need to worry off this game alone. I mean, obviously, first time Everton have had fans back at Goodison. Obviously, with the tear balls, it feels like we've had them a few times, but actually, because of Europe and things, a couple of games we've had, I think 2 or 3 games we've had them now. But I would say, I think this was always going to be a very, very tough game. I think people calling us title challengers or title chasers or favourites for the title, that was reactionary. That was getting quite a bit ahead of ourselves. And I actually think that as long as it's not the start of a bigger dip in our Christmas form, because we always seem to have poor form in this period.
True.
And that worries me. Last season it worried me. This season it will worry me until we kind of stop. We supposedly have more depth. If this doesn't signal the start of a sort of longer term dip, I don't think we need to worry. Looking ahead to Wolves, obviously, if that game goes badly, there will be pressure that's ramped up on Lampard. And again, we don't want a poor Christmas period. We have Arsenal, I think, on Christmas.
On Boxing Day, yeah.
I think we have City on about the 3rd of January. So we can't afford many more of these. But I don't think it's worth getting uptight and stressed and angry about. I know you're not. I've seen it on the timeline a lot. I don't think it's worth kind of losing our rag about too much.
Yeah, no, look, as you said, I'm not, really upset about it or anything like that. As I said, I'm a bit unexpected. Find that performance very unexpected. But nonetheless, let's get straight into it, man. First of all, lineup. For me, when I looked at the lineup, I kind of expected that lineup. That was my predicted lineup a few days ago, saying to everyone pretty much in social media that I kind of expected Kai Havertz in the wings, kind of expected Kovacic to start as well in midfield. So for me, when I saw that team, I thought it was still good enough to get the victory against Everton, who, when you see their form, they haven't been that great in their form. They've been losing, and I think one win out of the last 5. How do you sort of look at that particular lineup from your perspective?
I think it's a tough one because I know I have particularly been asking for a consistent shape. We've had it, and it's been really nice to see us play with a kind of real nice consistency. I think a lot of people might have said, actually, look, today would have been a much better day to actually play a diamond and then put obviously Werner or Abraham up top with Giroud. And I think there's probably some weight to that, particularly owing to the fact that I think Havertz and Mount on the wing, neither are particularly good there in a back 4, I would say, or neither are particularly kind of natural.
Yeah.
In terms of the lineup, I don't really have a lot of beef. I don't. Again, as much as it's wise after the event to say, oh, a diamond might have been the answer today, I think we were always going to play quite a narrow game, and that was always going to make it difficult. I think, and some people will berate me as being a fantasy manager or something for this. I think if he had started Angerin as the winger, I think it might have made things a bit easier for us, actually.
I was calling for Angerin at halftime to come on and sort of wanted Kai Havertz to drift into midfield. I feel like it was very ineffective, man. I got my head ripped off by saying that, for suggesting that, because I said, let's take off Mason Mount. For me, this is no disrespect to Mason Mount. I just felt that Everton was sitting deep and Mason's pressing game was not being showcased. We didn't need to press because they're sitting deep. So I thought, bring Kai Havertz, so he's got more sort of central abilities. He had a poor game anyway, so I don't know how much Kai Havertz could have changed the game anyway. But allowing someone like Tino Angerin maybe could have made the difference. But look, as you said, for both of us, the lineup wasn't a massive issue. Perhaps some tweaking down the track when how the match was going could have helped. But let's talk about the first goal, Tom. And I really want to focus on this particular first goal, the only goal in this particular match. Mendy rushed out last week against Leeds, which I completely thought there was no need for that, because last week I thought he should have allowed Zuma and Thiago Silva to see what they could have done. And Bamford was quite wide, so his shot would have been a special shot had Mendy just stayed back. Him rushing out allowed Bamford to go around him and open goal. This week, today, once again, I feel there was no need for him to rush out like that and really go after Dominic Calvert-Lewin. Gives away a penalty because Dominic Calvert-Lewin is very smart, very astute, robust, clever player, and gets a penalty. How did you look at that whole situation? Do you feel that it was warranted that he rushed out or not really?
I think it was a very weird maneuver. It kind of reminded me of playing FIFA, where you kind of just knock him, you rush out to the floor.
Yeah.
Again, I'd want to say obviously it's disappointing Mendy did that. I was disappointed. I thought, again, was it necessary? Possibly not. Again, if you touch the player when you rush out as a keeper, you're going to give away a penalty. It's the way that kind of life is, really. But what I would say is it was clumsy, and in the event it did cost us a goal. But had we gone on to win 2-1, 3-1, 4-1, not necessarily sure that there would have been the attention on him. Again, look, it happens once, we give him the benefit of the doubt. It happens twice, you look at it and you go, look, this lad's rushed out twice in a week. Let's keep an eye on him. And I think, any fan will say he's done brilliantly. I really, we all appreciate what he's done. He's a better, safer pair of hands in goal.
Yeah.
But he, maybe he wanted to rush out today to build a bit of confidence. Look, if it happens again, if it happens more consistently and it costs us points consistently, that's when I think you start to question the goalkeeper. But actually, for me, I think today, I think it would be unfair to pin the result on him.
Oh, no, of course not. Yeah.
I know you won't, but, I thought I'd put it out there in case someone thinks that maybe one of us said that we were.
Yeah, of course. In regards to Tom, though, he's a massive shot stopper. We know that. He's a fantastic shot stopper. But there has been some, suggestions from many fans out there in recent times that he's not always the greatest, smartest, I suppose, reader of the game. So whenever there's a loose ball coming, like in these sort of instances, like the Leeds last week, today with Dominic Calvert-Lewin, do you think maybe just watch this space before we jump into the conclusion, or there is some sort of issue there of reading the game?
Yeah, no. I'm not going to say any of that yet. I think that the way he's come in and he's, given that he's been at the club maybe kind of 2 months, 3 months, and the first time we comment on him was literally a week ago, I'll give him the benefit of the doubt. And I think as well, a point that's worth remembering, and I think it's actually been to his advantage since he's been at the club, but I think particularly now he's made a couple of mistakes. This guy wasn't brought in as being a world-class goalkeeper, 50, 60, 70 million and expected to be the best in the league. And, I don't think that, we should evaluate him as being one of those types of players. Yeah. I think he's played very well. He's been a very good shot stopper. In terms of reading the game, yes, I agree with you. He's made 2 mistakes there now. But the guys just come into Premier League football. They've got, I don't like patronising other leagues, particularly when I think the Ligue 1 is actually quite a strong league. I think these fast strikers, might just have caught him off. Bamford, Calvert-Lewin, both top strikers at the peak of their form. The number of penalties that get given away in this day and age is high. So there were, it's always going to be some kind of mistake from him. But I will give him time, because not only I think he's deserved it, and he's more than deserved it. Yeah, I think he, to think that actually, we only got him at the end of the transfer window. He'll be fine. He'll be absolutely fine. He's popular in the squad as well. Yeah, it'll all be good. It'll all be good.
No, you're right. And look, I mean, as you said, overall he's been absolutely a monster. So you can't really pin him down for these sort of things. Let's now move straight into the reaction off the back of that particular goal, which I felt the reaction was good. Reece James specifically turned into an absolute monster straight after that goal. He had that opportunity from, there was a free kick, and then off the back of, there was a corner where he took a shot from long range. I think it hit the post, or Pickford might have just saved it. I think it might have hit the post. Let's talk a little bit about Reece James and these positives before we go into all the negatives in this match. For me, Reece James, man, was our best player defensively and offensively. Defensively, in the second half, there was that breakthrough from Everton, from Iobi. Then there was not Iobi, I think it was Dominic Calvert-Lewin. Dominic Calvert-Lewin that puts the ball for Richarlison. And it looked like Richarlison was through, and, Reece James comes zooming past and just collects the ball up and really helped us defend that situation. Could have been, 2-0 there. Overall, do you think Reece James at the moment is probably the best right back in the world? Forget Premier League. Do you think he's just the best right back in the world?
Oh, now, you advertise this channel as being for alternative opinions, and I love the sound of that one. Again, when one talks of the best player in the world or the best player of a given league, I like to just give a bit of time to see him do it over a longer period. I think his recent performances have been very strong. I agree. And that's obviously why Gareth Southgate's played him. Even though he got the red, he came straight back into the England team.
Yeah.
I think there's definitely an argument to be made that he's the most on form, strongest right back in the Premier League. I can't say I've watched a great deal of other leagues. I normally do, but at the moment, just with everything going on, I haven't really been able to. As much as I'd love to say that he's not a perfect player yet, Reese.
Okay.
And I don't mean this to berate.
Who would be the perfect right back for you right now, in your mind?
As in ever? Or as in...
Oh, no, as in right now, at this moment.
Oh, that's tough. I've got to think about that. Well, I mean, you have Trent, who's done it over a long period. Again, I hate this debate, this narrative that one's better than the other, because, again, Trent's been there for a bit longer now. I used to see, obviously, Kyle Walker as a top right back. I think he's not as strong now as he was. Jordi Alba, I forget which side Jordi Alba is. I think he's left. Yeah. Carvajal, I think, is a very strong fullback. Again, I think he's possibly slightly undersold, but whenever he's been called upon, he's been excellent. And again, I'm not trying to say necessarily that these players are better than Reece James, but what I would suggest is that these guys just have a bit more nous, a bit more experience, which might prove the edge. Although, actually, I think today James stood taller than any of his teammates. He was outstanding, and he's building. He's building up a reputation very, very quickly, which is really good.
Khan here kind of agrees with you. He's said to me, bias towards Chelsea is cool, but me is RJ top one, no, mate. Look, personally, the reason why I put him as one of the best, the best at the moment, is because defensively and offensively as a package, I simply can't see who matches that at the moment. And that's why I put him up there. There's Carvajal from Real Madrid. There's, you've mentioned a few other ones. Trent Alexander-Arnold, but I think Trent defensively has always struggled in previous seasons as well. Offensively, fantastic, no doubt, is one stuff as well. But I think as a package, I find it very difficult to think who else out there carries that fantastic, robust, beast kind of personality and that beast attribute that he has. Honestly, nothing comes off the top of my mind at this moment. The right backs that we have over a span of history of right backs, that's a different story.
Yeah, and I think on form, you've definitely got a very, very strong argument that he is possibly one of the strongest in his current form. But I suppose I like to judge over a time period. I mean, I can remember, and by the way, I'm not accusing you of this, but the reason why in general I find it slightly disingenuous to kind of say at this moment he's great. I remember at the start of Sarri, for instance, when Marcos Alonso was, scored against Arsenal. He had a couple of really strong performances, literally right at the start of Sarri. And you had Sarri saying that he's one of the best left backs in Europe. And as much as I think he probably was at the time, I don't think that tells you very much about him as a player, to be honest with you.
No, fair enough. Let's move on to some of the negatives. And there were quite a few negatives, I feel, in this particular match. I wanted to start the show off with some positives. I think we need to now talk about some negatives. First of all, I want to talk about Timo Werner. I felt throughout the match he wasn't involved much. I honestly didn't see enough of Timo Werner. First half, I didn't see enough. Second half, there was that one chance where he puts the ball, crosses the ball for Giroud, and Giroud skies that. That was probably half a chance you'd say, yeah, someone like Giroud could make a bit out of that. But besides that, man, this particular player, I don't know. I mean, he's been missing chances. I know we don't want to harp too much because he's been creating chances as well, which is fantastic. But what do you think seems to be the issue here? Because it's just not clicking in recent times.
Yeah.
What's your thoughts?
Yeah, I mean, I've heard this a lot, and he's missed a lot of 50-50s, I would say, in the last few games. Today, again, was a continuation of that. But what I would say for Werner in his favour is, there are a few things. The first being that while he's not been scoring goals, typically, and today is an exception, he's been contributing so much in other ways. Like his movement is second to none. I think the way he acts as a kind of winger slash striker, like a left forward, I think it's a great goal to have. It really messes up opposition defenses because then they've got, you don't know whether the centre back's got to take him or the right back. And I think, secondly, he's not been playing up front, which I think is important. He's not a winger, and that means that on a game like today, where we haven't got a winger on the other side, it's a lot more difficult for him to be effective. Like, there's not going to be any balls coming in for him. He had to do a lot more of the chance creation than he would normally, and that's really, really not.
That's not his game.
Not his game at all. And I remember reading, I think it was a piece by Tony Cascarino last year. It was, I think, either during lockdown or just before or just after. I can't remember. And it was when Liverpool were interested in him, I think. It wasn't even when Chelsea were around. And he said that he couldn't for the life of him see why so many clubs are going after Werner, because he scores a lot of goals, but a lot of them are made by movement, and there's not a lot of physical skill, I think was the word he used, or raw skill that your likes of, say, an Mbappe might have, or a Haaland might have.
Didier Drogba-esque kind of stuff that we used to see.
The sort of player that you kind of has that instinct. And what he says is that Werner basically played on that striker's instinct without having that brute force or that ability to just fashion goals out of nothing. And I've seen enough to say I think he still has it. I think the fact that he's not scoring those 50-50s obviously does beg questions for observers and fans. But on a game like today, he was set up to fail. And that's not Lampard's fault. I don't think it's his teammates' fault. Although I do think having Tammy there instead of Giroud might have helped him. But if I'm invited back on and we're talking about this in January and he's still not scoring and he's still missing those, then suddenly I begin to question him. But at the moment, I think today was just a kind of one-off because we had no wingers.
No, you're right, man. I like how you sort of said that every match where he does, or where he has kind of missed, you've seen him get back on it and really produce those great runs, the movements, and then the goal contributions with assists. Today's match, credit to Everton for sitting back and really defending well. And as we kind of touched on, and we will touch on it a little bit down the track, not having players like Pulisic and Ziyech is probably hurting Werner as well. As you said, he's now having to create, which is not really his game. He's not a creator. He's not someone who's a playmaker. Now, let's talk about Kai Havertz, another player that, since his illness, we can't say that particular word in YouTube, or else you get demonetized in this particular platform.
Oh, really?
So, it's pretty crazy. YouTube's crazy, man. You can't say that word.
Caused lockdown.
Yeah.
Oh, wow. I did not know that.
Yeah. So since his illness, Kai Havertz, he's been a bit slow, which is fair enough. But today's another game where he was, finding his way back into it, that's another thing. But him not finding simple passes that are sloppy, his movement is slow, he's slowing down our counter-attack. I found that very annoying, and then a lot of fans out there have been commenting, but Miz, he's playing out of position. I get that. I get he's playing out of position. But the basics of passing has nothing to do with playing out of position. Do you know what I mean? Like,
Yeah,
normal passes should not be missed, even if you're playing out of position.
I mean,
honestly, how do you sort of take his performance today?
Yeah. So what I would say is the first thing I would say is the most concerning thing for me with him was the absolute lack of relationship with Reece James on the field.
Yeah.
That for me, more than the mistakes, which I think were probably caused as part, the fact that him and Reece were unable to build any form of partnership. I think it probably says two things. The first, that actually Havertz was really not brought in to play there, and it really wasn't his intention. And second, that he was never really trained to play there, because I'm convinced that in training you build those partnerships between fullback and winger, when to invert, when to come back out. Clearly that was not there. And I would say as well with Kai that, you know, he was brought in for big money, and obviously that breeds expectation. And, you know, he's moved out of Germany for the first time. The first time he came to Chelsea straight after joining was his first time I think he'd ever spoken English properly in a kind of media interview sense. And all this for a 21-year-old. I think he's 21. He might even be 20.
Yeah, 21. Yeah, he's Mason Mount's age. Yeah,
he's Mason Mount's age. All that, yeah, he's just moved to what one might call a European giant. I think you need to give players like this time. And I agree with you that it wasn't his game at all. It wasn't his position at all. And he didn't look natural, and he didn't really look at the races. And that is irritating. But I would suggest that as a number 8, he's been at least good enough, if not, you know, very good. Even though I would say, actually, I think him and Mount together have looked really nice. Yeah. And I think what is coming out of this, and I know I might be going off on a tangent a little bit, but I think it's quite important, because I think it possibly explains some of our issues. We should have brought in one more winger over the summer, probably a Ben Ryan. And the reason I say it is, I think Mason Mount he's not a natural on the wing at all, although I actually think he does it better than Havertz. Havertz isn't really that type of player either. We got rid of Ross Barkley again, who is another centre mid turned winger, which again I hate. And I think it adds unnecessary pressure, unnecessary demands on young players building their game, to basically throw them out wide and build a relationship with a right back, and to be responsible for spamming crosses and building up play, when really we're looking at those two as being dual 8, sort of box to box. Yeah. And it just leads to unnecessary scrutiny. And the guy today probably, it just, you could tell after about 10, 15 minutes before their goal that his movements with James were not working in any way. Yeah. And it was always going to open him up to attention, criticism that I think, to be honest with you, he doesn't need. I don't think his start's warranted that at all.
No, you're right. Look, you know, it's a very good point that you made in terms of that combination between the right wing and Reece James. We've seen with Ziyech and Reece James, and how Ziyech understands Reece so well. When he's overlapping, he's slipping that ball through. When he's sort of underlapping, he's putting the ball in. And both Reece and Ziyech, they've got that chemistry about it. Kai, 100%, definitely doesn't have that chemistry. And I could see there were a few times where Reece was a bit frustrated as well with the overall sort of link up on that side. I think a couple of things Frank probably should take away, you know, from these initial games is, which we've all said, Timo Werner is not a winger. Kai Havertz also is not an out-and-out winger. Yeah. And they're just doing a job for us at the moment because we don't have any wingers. Yeah. You know what I mean? It's what you said, Tom, that possibly a winger, another extra winger should be in the cards, because there's some comments here that Mason Mount should be in the wing. We've seen Mason in the wing, and he's not that effective either. Would he have done better today? I don't know, maybe, who knows? But it's not his spot at the end of the day. Wing is not his spot. And Pulisic, with all his injuries, issues, which we'll touch on as well down the track about Pulisic, perhaps, you know, winger is something that we really need to look into. But let's now move on to the overall other aspects of our play today. We've obviously highlighted Timo Werner and Kai Havertz, who were poor. But Tom, for me, overall, a lot of players were very sloppy today with their passing, with their, just, I don't know. There were moments where we looked great. We strung a few good passes, and we were progressing well. But even the players like, Giroud was a bit, not entirely in the game. Kovacic looked great with the ball, but then he always has that one odd pass that just doesn't click. In the second half, there was a pass that he hit straight. He was deep in our half and he hit straight at the Everton player. And I'm like, Kovacic, what are you doing? Like, you could see there was a player standing right in front of him. Similarly with Chilwell, he was defensively very good, but you have that one odd pass here and there. And Mason Mount, for me, just didn't create enough. Yes, free kick, hit the post, fantastic chance. Corners were looking great. What do you think was the issue? Because as I kept on saying in the beginning parts of this review, is that this was so unexpected. What do you think happened today specifically? Was it going away to Everton, the crowd? Was it just a bit too much?
I think partially that. I think we've been on an incredibly busy schedule, game twice a week, every week without fail. We haven't had a week off since the start of the season, more or less. Since I think literally the first week of the season, and Everton have had 3 weeks, blank weeks every week that we've been playing Champions League. So it's a result that, while unexpected, I don't think should be that disappointing or that surprising, actually. Also, what I remember seeing with Everton, as you say, I think we've lost 5 of our last 8 there, something like that.
Yeah. Last time we won over there was apparently in 2017 or 16.
Yeah, under Conte.
Yeah.
So I don't think, in and of itself, it's worth worrying about. We have Wolves in midweek, I believe. That game, they're in a bit of a pickle because they've started playing a back 4, which I don't necessarily think suits them, especially midway through a season, to just play a back 4. I think there'll be a handful for our defence, obviously, with Podence, Neto, Adama.
Not having Jimenez is a massive issue for them.
Agreed. And I think to play a 4-2-3-1 without Jimenez is a very, very, very weird thing to do.
Yeah.
But they're a team that are in transit at the moment. They really don't know where they're at. They've got a good result at Arsenal, but apart from that, they've looked really, really off colour. And so I would like to hope that if we get a good result against Wolves, a good reaction there, we can, come out of it and say, look, it's a blip. We only really tend to win at Everton when we're going to win the Premier League. I personally don't think we're title challengers this year. I've never thought it. Even our early results, some good results, I've never thought that was going to happen. So I think, and it was kind of similar with the United away and the Tottenham at home. I think the consequences of this result, or whether this is kind of as a bad result, but whether it's a blip or not, very much comes with what happens afterwards in terms of, if we win our next 4 or 5 and then go into Arsenal off the back of a 4-5 game run, great. If not, then I think the club, Lampard / the club, need to look at why we perform poorly at this time of year.
Good point, Tom. I wanted to touch about the whole title contenders topic, which I will just to wrap up this particular match before we touch on some important points and close this all off. For me, there was a few people that have been commenting here as well and in social media saying, Frank has been outplayed by Ancelotti. Personally, I don't think he's been outplayed. Frank did what he could do with whatever the team that he had, with the likes of Ziyech and Pulisic not being available. He did what he was, what he could have done. I think, he's picked the lineup perfectly as well. I think overall the players were just a bit sloppy today. In regards to Ancelotti, he just sat deep. He sat deep and he played on the counter, and he got a lucky break in the beginning with that penalty, which that allowed them to just really sit back and just pick us off. I don't think tactically Frank got outplayed at all, and I don't think tactically Ancelotti did something amazing either. It was just a game that just worked out for Everton. Is that how you sort of saw as well, just to sort of wrap that up?
What I'll say is that I think the injuries to both sides played perfectly into their hands, because they had 4 centre halves effectively. We had no wingers. So it got to a point where it was literally the perfect storm. The tactical victory, in inverted commas, was given to Carlo Ancelotti before the first whistle. The game. The only thing I think that he did that was a smart thing to do, and I don't think it was done to counter Lampard in any way, was to switch to a 4-3-3. I think you've been playing about 3 the last couple of weeks. So no, I think with injuries and stuff now, no way Ancelotti outplayed Lampard. And say he did, well, Lampard outplayed him in March when we beat them 4-0. So no, I'm fed up with this sort of Ancelotti's class and he's nailed Lampard today. Nah, it's one of those games where we just need to sit back, we reflect, we look at the injuries, we look at the recent form, which has been pretty good, and we go, do you know what? Results like this happen in a building team. As I say, literally the only thing that I would potentially have done if I were Lampard, and it would have been a huge risk, and it say that the game had turned out like this, he'd have been absolutely slandered for it, was to play Angerin as an out-and-out wing option. And whether he does that against Wolves, I think he might, I really do. But that is obviously if Pulisic isn't back or whatever. But no, I think, again, I think it would be wrong, or not wrong. It would be foolish to read too much into this game, personally.
No, absolutely. I completely agree with you. The whole talks about Frank got outplayed and whatnot. I don't think anyone got outplayed. This is just, it is what it is. It was 1-0, and I mean, we weren't sharp enough, and they didn't really create enough. They were just playing from counter. So I don't think there was anything outplayed here. All right, that pretty much wraps up that review of this particular match. Now I just want to talk about a couple of things before we close this off. First of all, you talked about the title contendership. I personally still think we are quality enough to be in the title contendership sort of talks. Yes, this was a bit of a blip. And this season, I still think, obviously Man United, Man City had a draw as well, so it's not like one of them sort of ran away with it. Tottenham, we shall see what they do in the next 24 hours. If they win, perhaps they get that bit of an edge, but it's a long, long season. For me, though, you did talk about the next few games, and I think they will shape us up as to whether we are serious title contenders or not. What I want to ask you is, Tom, Ziyech and Callum Hudson-Odoi and Pulisic may be back, hopefully, for Wolves game. Not really sure. But Ziyech and Callum Hudson-Odoi, Frank has said that they're not going to be in for the next 2 weeks. So possibly a lot of people are saying they may be back for the Arsenal game. So that means they've obviously missed the Everton game and we lost. They're going to miss the Wolves game. Hopefully we get something out of that. Who's after Wolves? Is that Arsenal or is there another game in between?
No, we'll have one before. I'll just check it now. West Ham at home.
West Ham, and they're tough. They're tough at the moment.
But what I will say is, so we've got Wolves on Tuesday. That is going to be very tough. A Saturday evening to Tuesday at 6 o'clock, which is a very, very weird time to play, sort of early evening. What would be good for that West Ham game is that we've got then 6 days to go from Tuesday 6 o'clock to Monday 8 o'clock where we don't play. That's our first pretty much week off that we've had in since the start of the season. Then after that, we go Chelsea, West Ham Monday to Arsenal on the Saturday. So it's going to be a tough run because we've got Wolves. That's going to be difficult. West Ham at home, they're in the form of their lives. That's going to be difficult. Arsenal away, Derby Day, could go either way, but I'd like to think we're favourites. Aston Villa at home, well, they've already gone to Arsenal 1-3-0. They've beaten Liverpool.
They've been playing good. They've been playing good.
They have. Man City at home after that. It's going to be a very, very tough game, that one, even though, again, I think quality-wise we can beat them. Then, obviously, Morecambe, which we actually have an 8-day break, which is beautiful. I think the players will really be needing it. Then we've got Leicester City away. So that's going to be another very difficult game that is a tough one. Then I think we get to slightly easier form. We've got Fulham away, which I think is fine. We've got Wolves at home. At the moment, I'd be confident. Burnley at home, again, should be fine. Then Tottenham. So I go through that, and I think that period between those two Wolves games is going to be very, very tough.
Yeah, and I guess in regards to the whole title contendership, that span of games that you talked about, and not having Ziyech specifically over the next few games could really be the telling point as to whether we can conjure up some wins. So do you feel similarly as well that if in the next game we sort of have similar sort of struggles as we saw today against Everton, we have similar sort of struggles against Wolves in regards to breaking them open without Ziyech? Do you think not having Ziyech until probably Arsenal game, that could be a bit detrimental during this period for us?
Yeah, I think, to be honest with you, the Christmas period, I would argue, since even that Conte year we won the league, we got very, very lucky in that period. The Christmas period, for as long as I remember, always exposes our squad depth weaknesses. On our day, we can beat anyone. If you put that team that we play normally, the Mendy, Chilwell, Thiago Zuma, James, Kante, Mount, Havertz, Werner, Ziyech, and either Abraham or Giroud, we will win most games. But when it gets to December and January, it has always been our detriment, and it was a reason why under Sarri we had to scrape third, and we could have been much nearer to the top two. It was a reason why under Lampard, again, we could potentially have come above Man City, I would argue, and we would have come above Man United had we had better form during that patch of the season. So I think it's a period where it judges whether we are a solid top four team and we come out of that period in the top four, or whether we're still at a point where we're fighting tooth and nail to get back in the Champions League. And for me, you say quality-wise, we're title contenders. I would agree with you in terms of the players. I think it takes time to build teams. I think it was a point that was made when Ranieri was at Chelsea, and I think when Mancini joined Man City. You can have all the ingredients to make a cake. And actually, this is my phrase. You can have all the ingredients to make a cake. You can have free-range eggs. You can have everything. But it needs time in the oven before it becomes
a cake.
And that's exactly what we're going through now. It will only...
I like that, Tom. I really do. I like that.
Glad you do, mate. Feel free to credit me when you're tweeting that out.
Yeah, for sure. But yeah, no, good point, man. I think, interesting times coming up. And I hope all our injured players comes back. I think Pulisic, hopefully, man, this guy just needs to, long-term health, just needs to really come in. And I really want to see this guy play 4 or 5 games in a row. I don't think I've ever seen him play 4 or 5 games in a row. This guy's just not been able to do that. But
I can see, I've got horrible images in my head of a Mario Götze 2.0. And it scares me, man, because I think he is absolutely incredible. But if he can't string together a consistent run of injury-free form, look at what happened with Arjen Robben at Chelsea. He just couldn't cope with scheduling.
Yeah. But you know what? The thing, someone else brought up the Arjen Robben thing yesterday. I think it was Mark might have been in or someone else. I can't remember. Or maybe it was Kamal in my channel. He said Arjen Robben went through the same thing, but he then found a solution, because when he went to Bayern Munich, or even before that, like, he played a lot of games in a stretch. So he eventually found a solution. I just hope that someone like Pulisic does find a solution, because that hamstring seems to be a bit of an issue for him non-stop. But yeah, look, it is what it is. It's a disappointing result for us. Hopefully it's just a blip. Honestly, I'm not like mad or anything like that. You know, as I said, unexpected that we played like that. There were patches where we looked good. There were patches that we didn't look good. I think not having some of our key players really, really mattered in this particular match. And, it's something to look forward to, as you said, Tom, in regards to getting a winger perhaps is very crucial over the January. Whether we get it or not is a different story. I'm not really sure. There's some comments as well saying emergency 2 wingers in January, which I'm not really sure if that's going to happen. But nonetheless, guys, it is what it is. We move on to the next game. Hopefully we bounce back. We generally have a good reaction. Overall, we're still in a very strong position. So, guys, every single one of you guys, thank you so much for joining throughout this session, commenting and everything. Thank you so much. Please smash that like button. Helps the channel out a lot. Subscribe if you're here new. And Tom, thank you so much for joining, my man, and good luck on that exam. Any final thoughts before you go?
Yes, one final thought. If you come over here for the first time, if you don't subscribe to Miz's channel, it will take me weeks to get over this. So subscribe right now. Miz is a top lad and he deserves and needs more subs because this is a top class channel. Let's go.
Thank you. Thank you so much, brother. Thank you for the praise. I'm going to have all your social media stuff in the description. So guys, please follow Tom. He's a lovely guy. He's a humble guy. You can have a very good interaction with him. So please follow him. All his information will be in the description. So guys, until next time, see ya.